Hi, Angie here from mynexttablet.com. Today with an unboxing of the brand new Redmi Pad. Let's get started. Let's start the unboxing of the Redmi Pad from Xiaomi that is available internationally, starting at around 300 euros and probably also around 300 US dollars in other countries. Now let's unbox this tablet, and inside the box we've got the tablet first. It looks a little bit different than your standard generic tablet. That's nice. Then we got the standard paperwork, nothing special. Then we're getting an eject tool, but that's not for a SIM card, it's for a micro SD card because there is no LTE or 4G or 5G version at the moment. Then we got the charger, standard one, and then also a very standard USB-C to USB-A cable. And that's it, nothing else inside the box, no other accessories or so. And as usual, since I shot the first part of this video, about the weekend has passed already, and now I can tell you a bit more about this tablet. I already watched a bit of YouTube, Netflix, ran the benchmark, and played PUBG Mobile. But we're starting with the design first. This is a 10.61-inch display. So basically your typical 10-inch tablet. We got symmetrical, relatively slim black screen bezels around the screen, and on the top here we've got an 8-megapixel main camera. There's no fingerprint scanner and also no additional sensor, but you can unlock it using facial recognition, but for that the webcam is used alone, no other sensor. And even Xiaomi says when you're configuring it, it tells you that be careful, this facial recognition is not super secure. It could be that somebody prints out a photo of you and uses that to unlock this tablet. So this type of facial recognition, it's always important to know, is not the best one, but you can use it if you want to. Then let's check out the back. Here we are getting a metal body, which actually feels quite well made. Nothing bad to say about it. Then we are getting an 8-megapixel camera here. The camera looks pretty big, but there's no LED flash and also no wide-angle camera or no additional sensor. This tablet is 7.05 millimeters thin and weighs 445 grams. So not the lightest, but also not the heaviest. Those specs are fine. Now let's go around the tablet a bit. Here we're getting a USB-C port. I'm pretty sure it's USB-C 2.0, but I will test that for my final review, but it's like almost 100% likely. So that means you won't be able to connect external monitors, but you can connect most other USB-C accessories. Then we're getting two speakers here, and there are two speakers on this side as well. And I watched a bit of YouTube and Netflix, and the sound quality is surprisingly good, especially for this price range. The speakers are really good. Like, I was positively surprised. They get loud and the sound is nice. So yeah, that's really nice to hear. Then we have a power button here. That one seems to be made of plastic. And then we get the volume controls over here. And then here we have a micro SD card slot. There's no headphone jack, and also no connector for a keyboard cover, and also no part to put an active pen because there's no active stylus that is supported. Now let's get to the screen, and that's actually one of the highlights of this tablet. This is 10.61 inches, that's not a big highlight, and also the resolution of 2000 by 1200 pixels is not a big highlight. It's basically your standard Full HD resolution on 10 inches, which means that text and icons, they look sharp enough, but they're also not crazy sharp. Sharp enough, but not crazy sharp. But what is a bit special is that this display has a refresh rate of 90 Hz. Your standard tablet has 60 Hz, and then the premium tablets from Samsung, Apple and Microsoft, they've got 120 Hz. And that also goes for the Xiaomi Pad 5 series, by the way. This one does not have 120 Hz, also not 60 Hz, it has 90 Hz, which is a nice in between. We can go to the display settings here, to the refresh rate, and here you can switch between standard 60 Hz and 90 Hz. When you have it on 90 Hz, everything looks a bit smoother, especially animations, they look a bit smoother. You can also set it to 60 Hz if you want to save some battery life, or you can put it to default, which means that the software adjusts the refresh rate based on what you're doing, based on if it makes any sense to use 90 Hz. Because when you're reading a book, for instance, a Kindle book, then it makes no sense to have it to 90 Hz because nothing is moving. So you can set it to default and then you get the best of both worlds, or just put it to 90 Hz. And yeah, that means that animations and so on, they look smoother than on 60 Hz. Usually when you're used to 60 Hz devices, then you won't be missing 90 Hz or 120 Hz. But once you've got one device in the mix that has 120 Hz, then you will appreciate a higher refresh rate. Otherwise, it's not that big of a deal if you only have 60 Hz devices. And yeah, this display otherwise is pretty good. Not like the best ever, but pretty good. It is 400 nits bright at peak brightness, which is a bit below the iPad 9 and iPad Air, which have 500 nits, but it's normal kind of for this price range to have 40 nits. It's still okay to use outside, but in direct sunlight it does not, it's not crazy bright in direct sunlight. Otherwise, colors look fine, viewing angles are good, the screen is fully laminated, and yeah, it's basically a decent screen, and you will be able to enjoy movies, YouTube, Netflix, especially with those speakers. And by the way, Netflix you can watch in full HD resolution. Some tablets only support standard definition, like the Xiaomi Pad 5 Pro 12.4 inch for instance, but this one has a wideband level of L1, so you can watch normal Netflix in full HD, which is nice to hear. Now let's take a look at the inner values, and inside runs the MediaTek Helio G99 processor, and together with that one we get 3GB, 4GB or 6GB of RAM, and the 64GB or 128GB internal storage. There's no 4G version, and I've got the cheapest one with 3GB of RAM and 64GB of internal storage. And you can see my Geekbench 5 benchmark comparison here. And it's good to point out that the performance is much better than on the Samsung Galaxy Tab A8, which is an entry-level tablet that, to be fair, is like about a year old already. It's also interesting to see that the graphics performance is stronger than on the Samsung Galaxy Tab S6 Lite 2022 edition, which is relatively new and which, at least the original pricing, is pricier than the Redmi Pad. Now the prices has dropped a bit and the tablets cost about the same. You can also see that the Xiaomi Pad 5 is much stronger, and that also goes for the Apple iPad 9 and of course for the Samsung Galaxy Tab S8 series as well. I played a game already, and that game is PUBG Mobile, and that game runs very well when you set the graphics to HD, which is like medium graphics. You cannot select HDR or Ultra HD like you can on higher end Android tablets or iPads. So HD graphics, but you can see that with those settings the game runs very well. I didn't encounter like any lagging or stutters, like it's a well playable game at HD graphics, and that's exactly what the benchmarks suggested. So most games should run on here, but most with medium settings only, like Fortnite, PUBG Mobile, games like these, you will not be able to play with highest graphics settings. So that means it will be like a solid mid-range gaming tablet, but certainly not the best one out there. Now let's get to the software, and I want to start with something that I noticed very fast, but I was a bit worried if maybe I'm doing something wrong or maybe there's a bug or something, but then I read it on the Xiaomi website and it's not a bug. Usually you can open apps in a split screen view quite easily, right? Depending on the tablet, depending on the Android version, you tap like long press here or you hold it a bit longer, and then there's like a little pop-up, and then you can say open in split screen view. Or in the case of Xiaomi, you can open like this dock here, which is a nice dock, and then you can open an app and like put it here maybe, but that's not working. And I was wondering, hey, why doesn't the split screen view work? Why can't I test proper multitasking? And the reason is that the 3GB RAM version that I have does not support a split screen view. That's quite unusual because much cheaper tablets like the Galaxy Tab A8 and even the Amazon Fire HD 10 series, they support a split screen view. So I don't know why Xiaomi decided to deactivate that feature, but they write it on the website that the 3GB RAM version does not support a split screen view. That's very important to know. And also for you, if you like to use like Chrome on one side and YouTube on the other side or other apps, that you cannot do it on the 3GB RAM version. If you want to do that with the Realme Pad, you got to get the 4GB version. That's a bit sad, and I'm not sure why. Maybe it has something to do with the 90Hz screen, because on a 3GB RAM tablet, that's the first time I'm seeing that. Otherwise, it has all the standard Android features, and it is running Android 12. Let's quickly confirm that with this little widget here. It's standard Android 12, and on top of Android 12 runs the MIUI in version 13, and that's basically exactly the same interface that we know from the Xiaomi Pad 5 and Xiaomi Pad 5 Pro and Pro 12.4. Now in this case, since the Realme Pad has been released internationally, it is running the Google Play Store out of the box, including all the Google apps and including the wideband level of L1 that I mentioned earlier. So this basically is your really standard Android tablet with all the standard software, except for the split screen view in 3GB of RAM. So the interface is customized a bit. There are tons of apps pre-installed, the ones from Google I mentioned already. Then there are many Xiaomi apps pre-installed. They even have their Mi browser. I don't know why you would use it, but you could if you want to. You know, there's standard apps like a recorder, a clock, a weather app. There's Xiaomi Notes, which looks like a copy of Apple Notes, but it will work okay. Not the best one, but it works fine. And then I installed some myself, like PUBG Mobile, the Benchmark, and pre-installed Netflix and WPS Office, but you can get them for free in the Play Store anyways. And yeah, you can see the interface is customized, like everything looks a bit different than standard Android, but it is still standard Android. So there's nothing like unexpected you will find. Most of the settings are the same standard Android settings. But you can customize it a lot if you want to. For instance, out of the box, there is no app launcher like the app library. Instead, you get everything on the home screen like on iPadOS. But if you want the app drawer, you can activate that in the settings, stuff like this. And of course, you can install another launcher if you want to. So the software is fine. Nothing amazing, but fine. But what is quite nice is that I read in a news article, not from Xiaomi directly, but in a news article, that it should get 2 Android updates, like 2 big Android updates, which means it would get Android 13 and 14, which is not always the case, especially in this price range. So that's nice to hear. 2 Android updates and 3 years of security updates. So this €300, $300 tablet should get quite a bit of updates, which is nice to know, especially since the most important competitors are from Samsung, the Galaxy Tab A8 if you're looking for something cheaper, and the S6 Lite if you're looking for something a little bit more expensive. So yeah, the updates are nice to hear. If it gets 1 or 2 updates, that would be great. And that's it. So much of my unboxing of the Redmi Pad. My first impressions are pretty good. It has decent metal body, it has a nice screen. I really like that we get 90Hz. I also like that the speakers are pretty good. The software is up to date. We get the Google apps and a wideband level of L1. There's a microSD card slot. It's a bit disappointing that you cannot open apps in a split screen view with the 3GB RAM version, but I guess I can live with that, and if you really need it, you can get 4GB or even 6GB. That will also be much better for multitasking. So yeah, seems to be a solid tablet, but obviously I have to start my full review now. So let's see how it handles my everyday use. I will be hitting a train like in 1 or 2 hours, and then I will test this tablet on a train ride, see how it is if you're in direct sunlight. And yeah, I'm excited to test this tablet now. The final review should be out in like a couple of weeks. Alright, that's been my unboxing and hands-on of the new Redmi Pad from Xiaomi. If you have any questions, write them down below. I'm Andrzej from mynexttablet.com. Thanks for watching and see you next time.